Welcome to Meet the Vice Presidentiables, Economic Reforms in the New Frontier. Before we start, join us in prayer and the singing of the Philippine National Anthem. Heavenly Father, you are our Creator, our light, our wisdom and strength. May we ask for your guiding hand to lead us through this forum today and every day as we accomplish our work in various tasks. We pray for joy, enthusiasm, and fulfillment in our work. May we conduct ourselves and our business dealings in an environment of fairness, respect, and compassion. May we ask you to enter the hearts and minds of our leaders and countrymen. Give them strength and wisdom so that they may lead us through these difficult times with honesty, integrity, humility, and selfishness. Finally, we pray that you extend your healing hand over us, our families, and our nation, and help us overcome this health crisis that has claimed so many lives, including the lives of many of our friends, family members, and colleagues. Please heal those who are sick and guide the hands and minds of our doctors and nurses as they care for them. All these we humbly pray. Amen. Let us now welcome our host for tonight. He is a columnist at Philippine Star and a director at the Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Inc., Mr. Wilson Lee Flores.
Good evening, everyone. This forum with Good evening, everyone. This forum with 2022 vice presidential candidates, organized by Financial Executives Institute of the Philippines, or FINEX, and the Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Inc., is unique in our hope of encouraging the whole nation to focus national discussions more on the much-needed economic reforms for the Philippines. Ang Economic Issues Forum na ito ay inorganisa ng FINEX at ng FFCCCII, Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce, ay natatangi sa aming hangarin na mahikayat ang buong bansa na itoon ang mga pambansang talakayan sa mga kinakailangang reforma sa ekonomiya ng bansa. Ang dalawang grupong ito ay non-political at non-partisan. Kaya ang aming layunin sa pag-organisa ng forum na ito ay upang bigyang diin ang kahalagahan ng mga issue sa reformang pang-ekonomiya tulad ng paglikha ng trabaho. Kasi milyon-milyon ang nawalan ng trabaho sa pandemya. Ang inklusibong paglago ng ekonomiya, pagsuporta sa mga micro, small at medium scale na mga negosyo or ng MSMEs, pagpapalakas sa ating global competitiveness, ang pag-akit sa mas maraming mga foreign investors at mga turista, ang pagtaas ng kalakalan at export ng bansa, ang paggawa ng makabagong mga infrastruktura, pagbabawas ng red tape at iba pang mga isyu tungkol sa ekonomiya. Muli, sana'y tumutok tayo sa mga reformang pang-ekonomiya sa bagong hangganan para sa mas maunlad at magandang kinabukasan ng Pilipinas. Once again, let us focus on economic reforms in the new frontier for a more progressive and better Philippines. To start the program, at this point, may I call on the leader of tonight's co-organizing group, FFCCCII President Dr. Henry Lim Bonyong, to deliver his welcome remarks.
Thank you very much, Wilson. Our distinguished vice presidential candidates, my good friend, Representative Lito Atienza, and Dr. Walden Bello, my co-host, Phoenix President Francis Lim, Dr. Mary Joy Abrenica, Dean of the UP School of Economics, another good friend, Mr. Tony Lopez, Chairman and CEO of This News Asia, Mr. Wilson Lee Flores, Chairman of the Federation's Media and Public Information Committee, of course, our co-presenters, Phoenix, Cignal, and the Manila Times, my colleagues at FFCCCII, our forum sponsors, partner organizations, and friends from media, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. On behalf of the Federation of Filipino Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industry Incorporated, I'm pleased to welcome all of you to our Meet the Vice Presidentiables Forum, Economic Reforms in the New Frontier. We would like to thank our guests this evening, Representatives Lito Atienza of the PROMD Party and Dr. Walden Bello of the Partido Lakas ng Masa. We highly appreciate this opportunity to hear our guests' platform of governance, the economic and social development policies, stands on important issues and their message to our voters. This coming election is indeed crucial. Because of the pandemic, many have lost lives, loved ones, and livelihoods. Our next elected officials, especially the President and the Vice President, will take on big roles in guiding and landing our country toward post-pandemic recovery in the next 6 years. We at FFCCCII, together with over 170 chapters across the country, are continuously working with the government industry partners and civic groups in promoting national development and in helping uplift the lives of our fellow Filipinos. We all aspire for a bright future for our country, and exercising our rights to vote is one of our most important responsibilities as citizens. So to raise our voters' awareness, one of our public information initiatives is holding activities such as this to give us voters a chance to know more about the candidates and their advocacies. Likewise, we want to provide the opportunity for the candidates seeking the presidency and vice presidency to talk to our voters through this virtual forum. Once again, our welcome to our guest candidates, participants, and audience. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I wish you all a very fruitful forum. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat.
Next, we'd like to introduce the two candidates for Vice President. First is Deputy Speaker Jose Libioco Atienza Jr. Siya ay kandidato sa pagka-vice-presidente ng Partido PROMD. Siya ay kongresista ng Buhay Party List, dating kalihim ng Department of Environment and Natural Resources, naging 3-term mayor or alkalde ng lungsod ng Maynila. Deputy Speaker Lito Atienza started his political career as a barangay kagawad, then barangay chairman in San Andres Bukid, Manila. Then became opposition assemblyman in the 1980s, representing the capital city at the then Batasang Pambansa. Then he served as National Housing Authority General Manager from 1986 to 1987 until he was elected Vice Mayor and then Mayor of Manila. He is the only Mayor of Manila who has served 3 consecutive terms in the history of the city. As Manila Mayor, his administration focused on urban renewal. When he was Secretary of the DENR, he focused on preservation of healthy environment and the development of our natural resources. In 2013, Atienza ran and won as Congressman of the Buhay Party List, becoming the #1 party list in that 16th Congress. He was again re-elected to the 17th Congress and became Senior Deputy Minority Leader. Now he is serving his 3rd term as Congressman of Buhay Party List and also a Deputy Speaker of Congress. In Congress, Deputy Speaker Lito Atienza has a perfect attendance and consistently spoke on the floor on many major national issues. We just mentioned a few, like the Reproductive Health Law, Priority Development Assistance Fund, or PDAF, Freedom of Information Bill, FOI, Bangsamoro Basic Law, etc. We cannot mention all his achievements and credentials, but he is also a civic leader, an award-winning public servant. Deputy Speaker Lito Atienza studied at University of Santo Tomas Architecture, then earned his Bachelor in Public Administration from the Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila, then earned his Masters in Urban Planning, Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila, and earned his Doctor of Public Management, honoris causa, from Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila. Our next speaker, Vice Presidential candidate, is now in Washington, D.C. joining us. Si Professor Dr. Walden Bello ay kandidato sa pagka-Vice Presidente ng Laban ng Masa. Dr. Bello is currently Adjunct Professor of Sociology at the State University of New York in Binghamton, and he is co-chair of the board of the Bangkok-based Institute focused on the Global South. He served in Congress from 2009 to 2015, where he was outstanding chairman of the Committee on Overseas Workers Affairs. Dr. Bello is also the author of 25 books, including Development Debacle, The World Bank in the Philippines, 1982, The Anti-Development State, The Political Economy of Permanent Crisis in the Philippines, that was 2005. Widely acknowledged to be an authority on globalization and economic development issues, Dr. Bello received the Right Livelihood Award, which is also known as the Alternative Nobel Prize, in year 2003. He was also named Outstanding Public Scholar by the International Studies Association in 2008. Dr. Walden Bello received his PhD in sociology from Princeton University. He earned his master's degree in sociology also from Princeton University. He earned his humanities degree from Ateneo de Manila University. Let us, before we hear from our candidates, let us pause for a commercial break. we are back. Now let us listen to the economic platforms of Deputy Speaker Lito Atienza.
Thank you. Thank you, Wilson.
Yes.
Gentlemen and lady, ako'y nagpapasalamat sa pag-anyaya ninyo na maglahat kami ng aming programa. My special greetings goes to my good friend, Walden Bello. I worked with him in Congress. I'm telling you, he's a man to work with. He's principled and he's competent. Those combinations qualify him to be a good vice president. Now, having said that, let me make it very clear. What I'm going to share with you is not my program of government. I do not have a program of government. It is Manny Pacquiao who has a program of government. To me, I just commit myself to be a very effective partner of the president to ensure the successes of his vision and program of government. Now, what do I hear from him? I hear very, very radical changes that we must initiate if we are to promote a healthier economy and provide jobs for the jobless and a better life for all our great masses. Pag hindi natin ginawa yung sinasabi ni Manny, magiging walang saysay lahat ng ating pinag-uusapan. Number one, let's remove corruption once and for all in the bureaucracy. Corruption is the greatest destroyer of any good governance. Corruption is the cause of poverty in our country. Corruption will persist as long as presidents and leaders do not perform the task mandated by the Constitution. Under Section 27, Article 2, on the principles and policies, it states that government, or rather, government should push for honesty and integrity in public service. It should do everything it can to curb graft and corruption. So it's time to ask ourselves, have we done enough? Have our past president done enough to comply with the constitutional mandate? The answer is a big no. Right now, we're witnessing exactly the face of corruption in this present administration. Second, that I hear from Manny Pacquiao is he will also implement and enforce once and for all the principle of local autonomy. Under Section 25 of the state policies of the Constitution, it is very clearly mandated that the state shall ensure autonomy in the local government. That is the only way we can progress as an archipelagic country, unless we promote development in the countryside and in each and every island, managed, planned, and performed by the local government units. We will not get there where we want to be. Ang pera mauubos ng central government pero hindi makakatikim ng pagbabago ang mga taga-probinsya. Local autonomy is the best way to excite the economy all at the same time in the shortest possible time. And Manny Pacquiao will do that. One, he will fight corruption initially and putting all the crooks in government either behind bars or suspended or removed from office. He will attend to the full implementation of local autonomy as a means to hasten the redevelopment and the recovery of the country from the impact of this pandemic. Right now, natatawa ako pag sinasabi ng mga kandidato, sama-sama tayong babangon. Inaamin nila nakadapa tayo. Ang sagot ko ron, sino ang nagpadapa sa atin? Yung mga pangulong nakaraan ang nagpadapa sa atin. Kaya huwag kayong mag-claim ng hindi ninyo kayang idepensa. Tayo ay pinaghirap ng gobyerno. Hong Kong prospered and economically improved greatly with the removal of corruption. Singapore also went the same way. So all we need to do is fight corruption and face up to it and defeat corruption and remove corruption in government, and the Filipinos will get a life that we've been truly deserving all this time. Kawawa naman tayo. Pagod na tayo sa paghihirap. And I'm telling you, unless we do something about corruption, no good economic program, no beautiful economic program will succeed. And I'm sure Professor Dean Joy will agree with me. Kung yung pera ay mapupunta lang sa bulsa ng mga nagpapatakbo ng gobyerno at yung pera hindi na ako kolekta at yung mga local government units ay pinababayaan, hindi tayo uunlad ng mabilis. The economic program that will only move fast under the new administration after Duterte is one, rid of corruption. And that is the way Manny Pacquiao will do it. And I'm happy. Excited na ako. Tumulong sa kanya sapagkat yan din ang panaginip ko. Even in my younger days when I ran for the City Council of Manila, I dreamt of a better life for the Filipinos. Nung sumabog yung granada sa harap ko sa Plaza Miranda, hindi ako natakot. Hindi ako na nagdalawang isip. Sabi ko, hindi naman ako tinamaan eh. Miraculously, the people around me all got wounded. But Atienza was spared of all of this. I got that as a message. Sabi ko, may plano ng Panginoon Diyos sa akin. But after 50 years, sabi ko, mukhang naubos ang plano ng Panginoon. I was ready to retire. But then came Manny Pacquiao. And he told me, straightforward, ikaw ang kailangan kong katulong. Congressman, I know you very well. We have worked together for almost 21 years, and I need you to help me, first, win the election, and second, administer the nation's affairs so that we can both achieve our dreams for a better life for our people. Tama na ang kahirapan. Sobra na ang paghihirap ng tao. We need to give them a better life as God intended. God intended the Filipino to live very, very prosperously because He gave us a wealthy environment. I saw that. As Secretary of Environment, I realized we have so much wealth in the country. Fresh water is abundant, food and greenery, and minerals. All kinds of minerals are here in the Philippines. So the question is, if we're rich in natural wealth, natural resources, why are the people poor? That's where you can see the total disconnect. Mayaman ang bansa, mahirap ang tao. Saan napupunta ang yaman? Sa kamay ng iilan lang. And unless we move fast now, all the public lands in the country will all be converted into subdivisions owned only by a few. And you know all of them. I'm telling you, Manny Pacquiao solution, drastic, immediate, and it will solve the problem of the country, and we will experience the kind of life God meant for the Filipinos. Kaya yung po naman ang aking ipinapangako sa iyo. Tutulungan ko si Manny Pacquiao all the way so that patupad ang kanyang panaginip na yung dinaanan niya kung saan niya nagamit ang galing na bigay sa kanya ng Panginoon ay magawa rin ng mga Pilipino ngayon. Lahat tayo, sabi ni Manny, lahat tayo merong galing na binigay ang Panginoon. Pero hindi natin nagagamit dito. Kinakailangan lumabas ka ng bansa para magtrabaho ka lamang. I will see to it that during our time, ang trabaho maghahanap ng tao at hindi yung tao maghahanap ng trabaho. In a nutshell, that's the economic program of the Pacquiao-Atienza tandem. Maraming salamat for listening.
Maraming salamat, Deputy Speaker. Maraming salamat, Deputy Speaker Lito Atienza. It is now time to hear the economic platforms of Dr. Walden Bello.
Okay, maraming salamat Wilson at maraming salamat sa mga organizers. I'm very happy to participate with you and of course very happy to share the discussion with my good friend Deputy Speaker Lito Atienza, whom we had a very interesting debates, when I was in Congress with him on a number of issues. No? So let me then begin by saying, sumasang-ayon naman ako kay Kong Lito, na corruption is really a major problem dito sa ating bansa. No doubt about that. At nakikita na natin yan ngayon in terms of the unfolding scandals involving sila Michael Yang, Farmally, Dennis Uy, yung mga recent revelations sa Pandora Papers ng mga 35 Filipino business people and government officials, including some of the people close to the current president, have been stashing their wealth outside of the country. No? And this is a good piece of investigative journalism, one of the participants of which is yung PCIJ, Philippine Institute for Investigative Reporting. I myself, I think a lot of people know that I tendered the only resignation on a matter of principle from the House of Representatives in 2015 because I thought that the Aquino administration then was engaged in double standards on corruption. On the one hand, it was punishing its political opponents on corruption grounds, but on the other hand, it was tolerant of corruption among its allies. No? And mahirap yan. Pag may double standards, you will ultimately be corrupted. And that's the reason I resigned as a matter of principle. But I would just like to broaden the discussion more because while corruption is important, I think there are more major problems in terms of facing our economy. I think the biggest problem has been something that we call indiscriminate liberalization. Yung todo-todong pagbubukas ng ekonomiya natin mula pa noong final years of the Marcos period, went through the Corazon Aquino administration, Fidel Ramos, Joseph Estrada, Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, and Benigno Aquino III, and finally the Duterte administration. No? There has been a single line, which is indiscriminate liberalization. And I would just like to give you an example of this. No? Because of the demands of international agencies like the World Bank and the IMF and the US Treasury Department, well documented na to, pinilit yung pagbabagsak ng ating mga tarifa. No? We have practically deprotectionized our manufacturing. Yung effective tariff rate natin ngayon is 1 to 4%. No? And this has been since around 2004, 2005. No? What we have resulted is yung tinatawag natin na deindustrialization ng ating manufacturing. Alam nyo, noong late 1990s, meron pa tayong mga 200 textile and garment firms dito sa atin na malalaki. No? Alam ni Wilson yan. Okay? Alam ng mga panelists natin yan. Ngayon wala na yon, no? Wala na yon. At saka yung mga opportunities to move to more highly value-added, no, industries, medium and heavy industries, nawala lahat yan. Why? Because of the flooding of our markets by industrial and manufacturing products from other countries that took advantage of the radical bringing down of our tariffs. No? I think some of the authors of that process, when they look back, I think even some of them will now say, we went too far. in opening up this economy. No? Alam nyo, mas malalim pa yung impact sa agrikultura natin. No? Lalo na nung sumama tayo sa World Trade Organization noong 1995. No? At doon, ang nangyari, demanded yung elimination of quotas on agricultural products. No? And iniwan lang sa atin yung isang quota, which was on rice. No? At before 1995, we were a net agricultural exporting country. You know? We were exporting, you know. After 1995, we became an agricultural importing country. And it's become worse every year. No? Noong mga 1995, 1996, yung trade deficit natin in agriculture was something lang, quite small, no? $200 million or less. And then it has gone up to something of the order of 7 billion. No? And pag nakita nyo yung nangyari sa agrikultura natin, lahat ng sectors ng agriculture natin have been subjected to tremendous import penetration. No? So, malakas ang impact talaga nitong compliance with the WTO. It has practically destroyed our agriculture. No? And then the last thing was yung Rice Tariffication Act that was promoted by Senator Villar and practically all the other members of the Senate, even a supposed champion of agriculture like Senator Pangilinan, who's also running for vice president. No? At you know, when after his winning in 2016, sinabi ni President Duterte, catch it on YouTube, he spent 10 minutes in his victory speech in Davao saying that the main cause of the destruction of our agriculture has been the World Trade Organization's demands on us. No? And then he zeroed in dun sa rice. No? And I was really quite surprised that President Duterte knew the facts, no? Yung flooding of rice and other commodities dito, no? Para nga siyang radical na magsalita. No? Sabi namin, nabasa yata ng Pangulo yung mga sinusulat natin. Okay? But then, after that, syempre, when he became president, nakalimutan niya yan. He has also forgotten other analysis and promises. No? And then he signed the Rice Tariffication Act in 2019. No? Ngayon, ang mahalaga ho kasi rito is that yung mga malalaking bansa na agricultural exporting, sinasubsidize ho nila yung agrikultura nila. No? Napakalaki ho ng mga subsidio yan. Thailand, the US, EU, Vietnam, you know, so much of their cost of production is taken by government. Habang ang Pilipino, the Filipino farmer does not enjoy any subsidies from government. Tayo ay free market agriculture. Yung mga iba, socialist agriculture na yan. Kaya nabubuhay sila. No, they can afford to, you know, just make profits on part of their production, and then they dump it on other countries. Thailand and Vietnam have been dumping on the Philippines, no, their rice, no. It is no wonder hindi sa inefficient ang ating mga farmers, no, kundi wala talagang competition kasi ang kalaban mo state-funded agriculture. Maski EU and US are said to be capitalist countries, yung agrikultura nila is state-financed yan. So this has been the bane of our agriculture, and I challenge all the economists, no, to 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 counteract this argument. They just have to look at the facts, no. Itong mga technocrats and economists have really destroyed, through their advice to governments, our manufacturing and agriculture, no. So what we have been left with, is itong mga fly-by-night industries like call centers. Okay, if they don't like the conditions for some reason, humihingi ng mas mataas na wages yung ating mga workers, lilipat kagad yan. Lilipat sila sa India, etc. So yung mga ganyan. So ang naiwan talaga sa atin is yung labor export, no? And nakakaawa talaga mga kababayan natin kasi wala na sila makita sa agrikultura. That's all closed. Wala na sila makita sa manufacturing. That's all closed, no? So the only thing they can do is to go abroad, no? And when I was chair of the Overseas Working Committee, it was nakakaawa talaga, especially mga condition that they have to meet with sa Saudi Arabia, where for so many of our workers, rape is a fact of everyday life, no? And they have to weather all these conditions kasi the policies of successive governments have destroyed the base for our economic activity. So let me then go to what is the solution. Kasi talaga dapat hard-headed na ito, no? On the one hand, mahalaga yung sinabi ni Kong Lito about fighting corruption, no? Pero that's not enough, nor is that the principal problem at this point. Ang magiging mga immediate steps namin if si Calyodi, who is our presidential candidate, no? Isang manggagawa who really experiences yung hardship ng ordinary working families, no? Kaya nga ako sumang-ayon na ako tumakbo as vice president kasi he is a man who knows what he's talking about because he and his family have suffered this, no? Unang-una, talagang ibaban na namin yung contractualization, no? Hindi pwede yan, no? Hindi pwede yung contractualization, no? We cannot have a president like Duterte who promises na ito yung magiging prime objective ko, then afterwards nakalimutan na yung promise na yan. And sa dami-dami ng ating mga workers sudden, can no longer have, decent regular jobs. Pangalawa, kailangan rin natin i-repeal yung Rice Tariffication Act. Kasi lahat na naman ng studies dyan, yung PIDS, for instance, Philippine Institute for Development Studies, pinakita that the main cause of poverty of the Filipino farmer over the next few years is rice tariffication, yung pagsigla ng rice quota and yung todo-todo na pagpasok ng mga imported rice from subsidized countries like Vietnam and Thailand. Napakataas yung, you look at what's happening in Thailand and Vietnam, maaawa ka sa farmers natin. Billion yung subsidies niyan. Kaya, they dump it dito sa atin, no? So that's number one talaga yan. Yung the one and two, then we need to be very serious about revenue generation. The Philippines is now one of the most unequal societies in the world, no? Where the top 1%, the billionaires, corner about 50% of the wealth, no? If it's not worse than that, no? And it's just a question of justice that we have very progressive tax laws. Ngayon, if we tax the richest 250 to 300 Filipinos, 3% of their wealth, we can generate about $1 trillion pesos, no? That can be through transfer payments, go to social security, economic programs of the people, no? And mahalagang, importante yan. At isa pa, yung ating debt load is very severe. Alam nyo, kasi hindi lang pinilit yung pagbubukas ng ekonomiya natin sa agriculture and manufacturing, but prioritize ng governments yung pagbabayad ng ating foreign debt. Since the Marcos period, Marcos left us with a about $25 billion debt, no? And we were forced to create a law called the Automatic Appropriations Act that said that the first cut in the budget will be payment to foreign debtors, no? Which means that over the last 40 years, every year from 20% to about 40% of our budget has been going to debt repayment. And right now we are about $102 billion, especially with all the recent infrastructure loans, no? And talagang we are in an impossible situation unless we repeal the Automatic Appropriations Act. We freeze our debt payments for about 5 years, and we really devote those resources to the Philippine development. Alam mo ho yan, is that pag yung budget mo is 20-35% going to foreign debt payment, wala ka ng capital expenditures. Okay? Maski yung personal expenditures, wala na rin. No? And this has been a major cause of our problems in terms of infrastructure development, which then forces us to go into more debt, as the build program of the Duterte administration has been. No? So we need to address that issue. Let's come into control of our finances by, in fact, making sure that we freeze our debt payments for several years and we repeal the Automatic Appropriations Act. No? So these are just some of the hard economic things that we really need to do. And of course, we must not forget that the Marcos people family brought out of the country 5 to 10 billion worth dollars, no, worth of assets and wealth, no. Only some part of that has been recovered. Sometimes with the help of foreign governments like the Swiss government that turned over something like $300 million worth of Marcos assets in Switzerland na ginamit ho namin to dun sa Marcos Compensation Act of 2013 that I was one of the authors, principal authors of, to be able to pay yung mga damages, physical and others, that were done to the victims of martial law. No, 11,000 people were compensated out of this. But the key thing is that there has been much more wealth that has not been able to get back into the country. And the unfortunate thing is that this wealth that Bongbong Marcos, has benefited from, is part of the wealth that is now funding his campaign. So napakasaklap naman ito. This family raped the country for 14 years. Wala pa silang apologies. Now they want to rape the country again with Bongbong Marcos coming in and using stolen wealth from by his mother and father to try to get back into office to rape us more. I mean, this is crazy. No? That's why I think kailangan natin dito sa kampanyang ito na we reveal the whole truth about the plunder of the Marcoses of the country. But the point here is that it's economic. Kailangan talaga natin yung extra resources na yan para ma-alleviate yung sufferings from COVID and others ng ating mga kababayan. Kasi alam naman natin, ang daming kalokohan dun sa Social Amelioration Fund, ang dami pa hindi nakakatanggap ng mga what is due them after 2 or 3 SAPs. No? We need all that for this economic emergency. So let me just say finally that ang kailangan talaga is comprehensive economic reform so that we come back on track as an economy that is vibrant. No? The only last thing I would say here is, alam nyo, yung sikreto ng Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, nauna sila sa atin noong mga late 90s and 2000s. Hindi dahil sa binuksan nila ang ekonomiya nila ng todo-todo. No? They were very discriminate about it. Very, very discriminate. Ang lakas ng rates of protection nila. They were able to preserve their industries and agriculture. They subsidized their people. They subsidized their agriculture. They subsidized their industry. Tayo lang sa Southeast Asia ang todo-todong nagbukas. No? And we had technocrats and academics that said free trade, free markets, and they believed it. Yung mga ating mga neighbors, they would speak free trade and free markets, pero they were more realistic. Pagdating sa implementation, sabi nila, teka muna, we have to be very, very careful. Kasi pag binuksan natin ang todo-todo, bagsak lahat tayo through import penetration. So this is therefore the solution to an emergency is something that Calyode and I are offering, and it's not going to be easy. Okay, mahirap talaga yung pag-ahaw natin dito, but unless we tackle the roots of the problem, then we're not going to get anywhere. No? So that is the hard facts and hard solutions that I would like to challenge the people to help us implement. So maraming salamat sa inyong lahat.
Maraming salamat kay Dr. Walden Bello. Thank you. Before we proceed to the much-awaited open forum, let us pause for a short break.
Yan nga.
Bilang Pilipino. Bilang Pilipino. Bilang Pilipino.
And now may I introduce our distinguished moderator and panelists. Our moderator tonight is Mr. Tony Lopez, publisher of This News Asia, and our panelist is Ms. Dr. Mary Joy Abrenica, Dean of the University of the Philippines School of Economics. Welcome.
The first question will be asked by Dr. Abrenica. Doctor?
Okay. Thank you po, Sir Tony. Okay. All right. Very interesting talk from both of our speakers. So if you would allow me to ask question to both speakers. So I'll start po with Representative Atienza. I would second po yung question o sinabi ni Dr. Bello, pero baka po hindi lang kayo nagkaroon ng pagkakataon na ipaliwanag because of the limited time that you were given. So your first radical change is remove corruption.
Basic.
Opo. Ang tanong ko po is, after that, so what?
We have
So what's next?
We have all the good economic programs. We have the brightest in the Philippines of economists. We're not lacking in that.
Mhm.
But the problem is, sabi nga ni Dr. Bello, kailangan may subsidy. Ginawa na natin yan eh. Sinasubsidize natin agriculture. Saan napupunta ang subsidy? Sa bulsa ng mga politiko. We subsidize them in their fertilizer needs tremendously. Saan napunta ang fertilizer fund? Sa bulsa ng mga politiko. Kaya, without addressing corruption initially, all the beautiful economic plans and ideas will come to nothing because pupunta ang pera sa mga politiko. So we need to put some people in jail to serve the purpose without punishing those who are guilty. We will never get to removing corruption because nakikita nila eh. The Marcoses stole so much money, or they're even running for president now.
Lito, I think the question,
Wala.
Lito, I think the question is, can you do it? Pwede mo ba pakulong ang gobyerno, entire government? Kasi kung uli mo lahat ng magnanakaw sa gobyerno, wala nang tao sa gobyerno maiwan.
Sabi nga ni Manny, balitan natin lahat. At magtayo tayo ng pinakamalaking kulungan, mega prison, to put all of them in one place. So that forever, magtatanda na ang Pilipino, walang magnanakaw. Kung nakukulong, ang magnanakaw.
Kulong lang ba? Hindi ba pwedeng patayin?
Huwag naman. Ako, hindi ako sang-ayon sa patayan.
Okay.
And I have been consistent on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dr. Bello, ano pong sagot niyo doon sa katanungan na yon? Ni Dr. Abrenica, ano pong gagawin niya sa corruption? Kasi lahat ng politiko po yan ang pinangangako eh. Hindi pa na-invento ni Ebat Adan na pinangangako niya ng politiko.
Well, sabi ko nga, yung corruption is a very important reason for the, yung backwardness ng ating economy. But I would say na while we need to really deal with corruption too, no, by if you cannot put everybody in jail, at least merong, you get the biggest ones, no, and put them in jail. And some of them are now, we've seen them, some of the bigger ones. We need not mention names at this point. But pag may symbolic punishment, it will be something that can deter the rest, no? But sa tingin ko, hindi lang yung mga politiko na corrupt, kundi sometimes big business itself is part of the problem, no?
Dr. Bello, sa business po, walang corruption, merong commission, pero walang corruption. Can you name some people na nasampulan na nagkulong po dahil sa corruption, dahil pag nanakaw sa kaban ng bayan? Meron ba kayong maalalang tao? Kayo ginongke sa 50 taon na kayo sa gobyerno. May naalala ba kayong tao na nakulong?
Wala po, kaya sinasabi ko na Kaya paulit-ulit, paikot-ikot tayo.
Kung hindi
binabawalan
po
natin
nangyari
tao.
yan the last 50 years, paano kayo magkakaroon ng confidence na mangyayari yan in the next 50 years?
Ano,
Kasi ang tawag pa dyan sa ganyan mga pangako, bola.
sabi ko I rose from the ranks. I saw corruption in all levels. And I know how it's done. I have rejected it. I did not participate in it. I did not get my fertilizer fund allocation. One. I did not get my PDAF. In fact, I denounced it on day one in Congress. Nung akin din-announce yung pork barrel, sabi ng majority leader, kung ayaw mo ng pera mo, huwag mong pakialaman ang pera namin. Kung maalala ni Walden yun. Ang sagot ko sa kanya, hindi ko pera yan. Hindi mo rin pera. Pera ng bayan yung ninanakaw nyo. But anyway, that broke the ice.
Anyway, Dr. Abrenica, do you have follow-up question?
Yeah, opo. Okay. Actually po,
illegal.
okay. Actually po, ang gusto ko itanong ay, assuming po ma-remove natin yung corruption and Senator Manny Pacquiao is able to do that, what is next actually po? Which of the, sabi niyo po ang daming economic plans na magaganda, which of the specific those funds na gagawin ng Pacquiao administration na natingin niyo po ay talagang mag-stimulate ng ating ekonomiya given the pandemic na talaga tayo po'y we're really down. Which specific policy po, and I think yun po ang gusto yung malaman ng marami, no?
Unang-una, we should practice austerity. We pretend to have all the money, borrowing it all the time. Gastos tayo rito, gastos doon. Sabi nga ni Manny, ang ating budget, 5.2 trillion. Magkano dyan mareraise ng gobyerno? 2.5 trillion. The rest will be borrowed again. And so on and so forth. The next president, kung ganyan na naman ang gagawin niya, malaki ang budget, pero utang. Ibinabaon tayo sa utang na wala tayong kalaban-laban. So austerity muna, at ikulong muna yung mga magnanakaw. Siguro 1 year of cleansing and austerity will convince everybody to do better.
Austerity is when you save money, no? Pero ayon pa sa mga ekonomista, we have about 32% savings rate. So meron kong savings, bakit ka mag-austerity? Hindi mo nga ginagasta yung sinesave mo eh. 32% of GDP, based on 20 trillion GDP, that's about 6 trillion pesos na nakasubi, ayaw galawin. Ang tawag ko po dyan sa pera na yan, ulila. Walang gustong gumalaw. Hindi po
ito yung sinasabi ni Tony, incompetence. Kailangan, chinecheck din ang paggastos. Kung hindi marunong gumastos, hindi dapat binibigyan ng budget. Eh bakit sila paulit-ulit na lang, palaki ng palaki budget, palaki ng palaki yung nagagastos. Pero kung tayo sa utang,
baka sa incompetence dito, it is also a form of corruption. Kasi kung presidente ay tanga, hindi nga alam ang gagawin sa nakakalat na pera. Corruption din po yun eh.
Tony, bago mo tawagin yung presidente tanga, tanungin mo muna siya, magkano sa'yo dyan? Hindi lusot sa sino mang presidente ang katandaduan na wala siyang alam. Hindi ako naniniwala rin sa honest president and corrupt administration.
Anyway, ay done na Dr. Abrenica. Happy ba kayo sa sagot? Happy ba kayo sa kanila? Kasi dapat sinabi mo, Lito, pag nahuli mo na yung mga magnakaw, hindi kailangan magtrabaho ka na. Tinatanong niya, ano gagawin? Si Manny Pacquiao, sabi niya, siya champion ng 8 divisions. Sabi niya, makakaroon siya ng 8 championship in 8 sectors. Ano pa ba yun, Dr. Bello, Lito?
Ito.
Sabi ni Manny, nadinig ko siya nung last week, guest namin siya sa Rotary, magiging champion siya ng 8 sectors. Ang na-mention lang po niya, yung housing, tapos tulungan ng mahirap. Lahat ng politicians sinasabi, tulungan ng mahirap eh.
Baka tinutukoy niya yung kanyang programa para sa mga mahihirap na ang supply ng gobyerno, pabigil natin ng corruption once and for all, abolisin na yung DBMPS. Yan ang naging source ng corruption at parmali. Ang supply ng gobyerno, kunin natin sa mga kooperatiba. I heard that from Manny and I was very happy. Pag sa kooperatiba, kinuha ang supplies, unang-una, wala na yung para kay Eddie.
Eddie ako.
Ang SOP ngayon eh, magkano presyo? Paano yan si Eddie? Sino Eddie? Eddie ako.
Eddie ako.
Yan ang hirap eh. Standard ngayon yan. So pag sinabi natin na ang supply kukunin sa kooperatiba, kay Manny Pacquiao yan, in that manner, the smallest member of the cooperative will earn and will be given access to credit.
Balik Kalito. Number 1, housing. Number 2, cooperatives.
Housing,
Cooperatives.
Housing gives the family immediate stability. Pag may konting bahay na, ang sino mang mahirap, magsisimula na. Doble ang kanyang productivity because yung bahay ang panaginip ng bawat Pilipino. Pero ngayon, magkakabahay ba ang mahirap? Tony, maniwala ka sa akin. ang Kongreso punong-puno ng land conversion bills. What does that mean? The available land that you see now is still available. Kung masusunod ang mga may-ari ng mga subdivisions, lahat yan mapupunta na sa kanila. Yung agricultural land, i-convert sa
Kasi ko lang Lito, pag ang politician may programa ng magkakabahay, kung meron siyang o marami siyang may bahay.
Anyway, I like your humor, but I can connect it with something about you.
Anyway,
Yung mahirap na yun, hindi na magkakabahay yan kung hindi natin susundin.
Anyway, katanungan
Sorry,
po.
meron po sana akong gustong
Opo,
itanong. May isa
Dr.
po
Benica.
akong itanong kay Representative Atienza dahil sinabi niyo po yung tungkol sa local autonomy. Ano po ba ang pananaw niyo dun sa 4% share ng local government units?
Alam niyo ang batas. Ang batas.
Will you add? Okay.
Hindi lang naman Iran dapat i-share. The intention of the Constitution is to provide the local government units a share of all taxes, all. I'll cite one, VAT. VAT is one of the biggest taxes now.
Right.
Binibigay ba nila yung share ng local government? Wala.
Kala ko Lito settled na yun ng Bandanas Road.
Well, panalo ng Supreme Court, pero hindi ini-implement eh. Yung IRA pa lang yun, Tony. IRA. I'm talking about that. I'm talking about excise taxes. I'm talking about ports operation. I'm talking about other collections which should be shared with the local government in that particular area para naman matulungan sila sa kanilang mabilis pagde-develop na kanilang sariling community.
Kasi
If we
Lito,
rely on a centralized government like what we're doing now, well, it might take us 2 more centuries before we can even sniff.
pero Lito, pag natupad yung sinasabi mo niya, ibigay lahat ng ira sa mga taga-LGU, wala na pong gagawin si Pangulong Manny Pacquiao. Kasi una, 30% ninanakaw, 30% debt servicing. Tapos yung 40% pupunta pa sa 100% wipe-out compounding ng national
That's
government.
what we don't see eye to eye, obviously, Tony. Pag binura mo ang corruption, wala na yung 30% to corruption. Pag ibinigay mo ang share ng local government, hindi na ba ibig sabihin lahat kanila eh. Pero tinatakda ang batas eh. Sundin na lamang natin yun. But on the second year of the implementation, the law says 50% should have gone to the local government unit. Nangyayari ba yan? Hindi. And then thereafter, 10% forever, perpetually, the local government units should get a share of that. Ginagawa ba yun? Hindi. Meaning, yung trabaho, dinidevolve. Hindi na yan social welfare, hindi na yung health. Pero yung pera, amin pa rin. Ako pa rin nandidiscarte. Padadaanin ko pa sa DBMPS. Yung problema natin sinasabi ko, unless we really prevent the commission of corruption in government and follow the Constitution, the Constitution mandates that government should really have an honest and a government with integrity. And it encourages government to pursue effective ways and means to curb graft and corruption. But we're not even following the Constitution. I'm happy. Manny Pacquiao is a wide reader. He memorizes the Constitution in the same manner he memorizes the Bible. So that makes him very knowledgeable, contrary to the impression of many that this guy doesn't have anything between the ears. If Manny Pacquiao was a genius, he would not have won a single title. When you're up there in the ring, you're on your own. Every second, you have to be alert. You have to anticipate. You have to concentrate. You have to focus. That's Manny Pacquiao to me. And I saw that in the past 20 years that I've known.
I agree with you,
I like him.
Lito. Pero actually, you don't need the Constitution para ipagbawal ang pagnanakaw. Nanay mo pala ituturo na agad yan sa'yo. May katanungan po tayo sa audience kay Dr. Walden Bello. Tatagalin ko po kasi English eh. Ano ba talagang papel sa buhay ng Vice President of the Philippines?
Ang mahalaga dito is yung tutulong sa presidente sa implementation ng mga programa ng presidente at to act as a close advisor to the president. Kaya mahalaga na yung mahalal na vice president kung maaari siya yung katandem ng president. Kasi kagaya namin sa laban ng masa, Partidong Lakas sa Masa, yung paggagawa ho ng aming programa ay cooperative venture na sumama kami. No? We were part of the process. No? Ngayon, if you have a situation where one does not belong to the same tandem, then you will have a situation like what has happened during the current administration na rather than working together, laging kakabanggaan. So, ang suggestion ko, if you are going to go for the Lodi-Bello tandem, elect them together instead of separation because they know that they have a common program to work with.
Kayo po, Lito, ano ba papel sa buhay ng Vice President?
Papel ng Vice President tumulong sa presidente. Hindi maging kibitzer, hindi maging heckler, hindi maging mga ngantsaw lang. Ako mananalo, I will help the president. If I disagree with whatever he does, I will talk to him in private. I will see to it that I voice out my opinion. I do not agree with this particular program that you initiated. You can adjust it in this manner. But never criticize him in public because you have just broken the line of working together. And that's not good for the people. That's exactly what we saw again in this past 6 years. Si Lenny, kaya kung meron masasabi, hindi niya ginawa yung tama. Binigyan siya ng trabaho. Anong ginawa niya? Pumunta ng Amerika. Binanatan si Duterte ron. At binanatan ng binanatan. Ano sabi ni Presidente? Pumunta ka rito. Because I'm just firing you. Why? You publicly criticize this president. No vice president should do that.
Lito,
Let me just share.
Yeah.
I was vice mayor. One of the hardest to deal with mayor. May his soul rest in peace. He was the one who invented salvaging, the EJK. And I did not agree with that from day one. So when I said, I cannot tolerate this, I did not say it in public. I talked to him in private and I explained to him, killing will lead to more killings. The police will get corrupted and then later on, there'll be our problem. Kailangan tigil mo yan. Pero hindi ko sinabi sa tao yan. I worked with him in private. But then he did not do that.
Lito,
He immediately criticized Duterte. Duterte got back to her.
anong gusto mong trabaho kay Manny Pacquiao aside from taga-hima sa Batok?
Super alalay. Kaya hindi ako magtatayo ng sarili opisina eh. When I am asked, where will you hold office? Sa Boracay Mansion o sa Coconut Palace? Sabi ko hindi. I will hold the office with permission of the president beside his office. Para ako palaging matatanong, ito ba'y maganda? Ito ba'y may opinion ka ba rito? I will have to work with him 100%, 24 hours a day. Hindi yung malayo yung opisina mo, bago ka maabot, sa traffic ngayon, eh hindi ka aabot na pirmahan.
Kasi ito ang topic natin, economy. Would you like to be the economic star of Manny Pacquiao? No?
I believe Manny Pacquiao is a better economist than me.
Okay.
Because his brains are in the right place. Believe me. He's a genius. Nung pa sinabi ko sa kanya, this man is a genius. Because lahat ng nakalaban niya, pinag-aralan niya, tinalo niya. At
Kayo po, Dr. Bello, would you like to be the economic star of your president?
Well, if the Cagliari wants me to do that function, I will do that. And siguro naman, I do have some expertise dito sa areas of the economy and I would fulfill those to the best of my ability. For instance, ang pinakamahalagang, most important department of the government at this point in time, believe it or not, it's the Department of Finance. No? And the Department of Finance really needs to be cleaned up, not because of corruption so much as of ideas that are wrong. Because the Department of Finance has led this country down to yung tinatawag natin na neoliberal path of complete and indiscriminate liberalization that has destroyed our economy. So, malaking challenge yan. Because you're dealing with old ideas that have become solidified and malakas ang vested interests.
Pero, Dr. Bello, in fairness to Sunny Dominguez, I think is one of our best secretaries.
I fully disagree. Mr. Lopez, this is a man who is the biggest advocate of mining.
Let me just react to that also.
Yes, Lito. Yeah.
I cannot accept that statement also, just without any reaction. We have a law called Customs Modernization Act. The intention of the law is that all container vans entering the country, and we have about 8,000 of them now, entering daily, and they are not inspected at all. In fact, siguro meron na inspection dyan, mga 200, 250. All the rest come in uninspected, and all of them enjoy the green lane. Basta magbayad ka ng tara. My question is this, my point is this. Si Pinoy, hindi in-enforce yung batas na yan. Dahil tanong pa niya nung ginawa namin yan. Then I can understand that because elections were nearing, they were probably continuing raising funds for the electoral campaign. Nanalo si Duterte, since Sunny Dominguez is my good friend, I had the nerve to go and see him and ask him, there is a new law and a good one. Yung mga container vans, dapat in-inspect na yan from point of origin. At meron ngayong specialized services na babayad ka lang, ibibigay sa'yo ng contents nung steel container van because they have machines and apparatus that could detect all this. Sabi niya, that's good law. Sabi ko, yes, I assure you, Sunny, it will make the Duterte administration probably rid of corruption in customs once and for all. Give me 1 month. Sabi niya, give me 1 month, sabi niya, and we will enforce it. I'd like to remind him, no, I am taking advantage of this program. Kasi he just got a good rating from Tony. And I'm telling him, my good friend Sunny, you're now about to end your 6 years. you have not implemented a good law that should have probably saved the nation a lot of shabu being imported through the container vans, a lot of taxes of highly taxable goods entering the country through the container vans, and bakit hindi mo in-implement?
Kasi kailangan kong paliwanag bakit maganda ang pagkakaalam ko kay Sunny. Matagal ko na po siyang kilala, 1985 pa. Tapos in the first 4 years of the Duterte administration, ang GDP growth rate po ay umabot ng 6.6%. Ang economic team ng economic managers is headed by Sunny Dominguez. So I'm saying that he is good in that
Can you
context.
give us a chance to respond to
Yes,
that?
Dr. Bello, yes.
Yeah.
Opo.
I respect your opinion. Kaya lang, we also have a person who, who was the one who opposed the administration's focus on controlling mining in this country. No? Na isa ito yung naging promises ni President Duterte as well as Gina Lopez. And this was the man who, because he's very close to mining interests, destroyed any real effort to govern the mining industry in this country. No? So I would say that this guy is corrupt. No, this is a corrupt administration that was headed by a corrupt finance manager who was the one who derailed the anti-mining agenda of the initial Duterte administration. So I cannot admit, Tony, that this is a man that can be
Dr. Bello,
effective.
ang mining industry na in-stop ni Sunny Dominguez sa pagkakaalam ko po, yung that's mine. Tinax yung isang malaking tobacco company, pinagbayad yung isang airline ng parking fee sa NAIA. Yan po, ano pa masasabi niyo dyan? And highest revenue ever in the Philippines, lowest debt to GDP ratio bago nag-pandemic. So, tingin ko po, hindi po salbayad.
Before you go overboard, which Walden and I may not agree with, kung maganda ang performance niya, dapat mas maganda pa. Dahil yung smuggling sa customs, hindi mapigil-pigil. Hanggang ngayon, pinapabayaan nila. They don't want the container vans inspected because they are sharing in that. They're getting about 250 to 300 billion out of everybody's pocket if you're an importer. So nobody wants to touch the Modernization Act sa Customs Bureau because the reason why. I mean, if you keep your eyes close to this, yun ang sinasabi ni Manny Pacquiao, walang mangyayari sa atin. Kung corruption tuloy-tuloy, we'll be wasting our time. I feel 6 more years of my life, the ending of my life in public office, kung ako ay naglilingkod sa presidente, hindi ko pinagkakatiwalaan sapagkat hindi siya totoo, ayoko na nun. I would like to work only with Manny Pacquiao.
Kalito,
Tony, one last addition lang.
Dr. Bello, sabi niyo pa kanina, ang average tariff natin ngayon is only 0.25%. Diba? That means no more smuggling. Bakit po nagko-complain si Kalito?
Tony, no more smuggling here. It's just like believing in the surveys that Bongbong is a sure winner. I don't believe that. He went to Cebu, he was booed all around, and money was applauded and welcomed. In the middle of these figures, Tony, I don't think we will agree.
Dr. Bello, Dr. Bello.
I would just like to add, ito na ang binuksan to total both local and foreign mining interests ni Secretary Dominguez. Ito na one of the worst environmental abusers, Oceana Gold, no? Na has been banned in countries like El Salvador. Dito after yung sila Governor Padilla and Governor sa Nueva Vizcaya and others tried to stop it, it's back in operation because the finance manager of the country and the president have given it again the go signal. It is one of the worst places in the country. Kung daw kayo sa Nueva Vizcaya, makikita nyo, nasira ho. Governor Padilla is number one who can show how the mining industry has really destroyed the country, including itong Oceana Gold. So again, I would support yung sabi ho ni Congressman Atienza that this is not an effective finance manager. He has been selected and he is corrupt.
Okay. Pasensya na po.
Okay po, Dr. Bello.
Hindi naman po kandidato si Secretary Dominguez. So siguro po punta po tayo sa mas issues on economic.
Saka Dr. Veronica Walden and Lito, natatandaan ko ng 2016, si Secretary Dominguez was cited as the best finance minister in Asia. Dinicline niyo po ang award.
Okay.
That's what. That shows integrity. Anyway, may mga katanungan po dito ang ating audience. Aside from putting blames, Dr. Bello, aside from putting blames on former politicians, can both aspirants dito, pati pala ikaw to, please elaborate the true responsibility of a vice president. Ibig sabihin po dyan, kailangan lang ba amuyong ka sa presidente?
Okay, let me.
No, ayaw mo, sabi mo, ayaw mo mag-economic siya.
Let me expand the thought of being a good super alalay. You have to be a prepared possible president because you are the spare tire. In our laws, yung purpose na Vice President, you are the next in line. You are one breath away to the presidency. Kaya ako naman, sabi ko nga sa inyo, hindi na dapat pinagnanasaan ng Vice President yung pwesto ng Presidente. If God wills it, you'll be the President in an instant. The President chose, you're the President.
Lito.
So don't look at the chair of the President and it will influence your judgment with your pride.
Kasi Lito, kaya tinatanong ng audience to, sayang naman ng talent mo. Half century of public service in the executive and legislative branches of government. Tapos umawa ng housing. Housing, that's one of the biggest economic movers. Housing. Kasi housing carries about what? 17 other industries. Humawak ka din ng natural resources. Sinabi mo nga, mayaman tayo. Eh, sayang naman yung pagkakaintindi mo sa bagay-bagay tungkol sa ekonomiya.
Tony,
Tapos taga-masay ka lang ng Pangulo.
Tony, don't put words in my mouth. I said, I will advise the President. Lahat yung nalaman ko, sa kanya na yun. Automatically, kaya sabi ko sa'yo, I will hold office even in corridor, outside the door of the President's office, to be able to access to him and him accessing to me.
Ito, I'm not putting words into your mouth.
Are you saying that I said I will be a useless Vice President? I never said that. I said I will be a working...
I am using the boxer's language. Masay, alalay. Laging nandun, nakayuda.
You're upgrading everything that I said. No, I didn't mean it that way. You are the one who meant it that way. I will advise the President on everything that I know about.
So just in response, and along the same line as the Kong Atienza, if the President wants me to serve as Minister or Secretary of Finance, I will do that and perform it to the best of my ability while giving advice on other areas. But the other area I think that I would really want to be interested in, if he allows me, is yung foreign affairs. Kasi sila yung foreign affairs natin. You know, I mean, over the last 6 years, our foreign affairs has been one of sucking up to China. No? This has been a very shameful presidency when it comes to relations with China. Hindi na makapursu ng independent foreign policy kasi on one hand, rhetorically naman, inattack yung United States, pero in reality, it supports the Visiting Forces Agreement and the comprehensive, the EDCA agreement with the United States. So we are in a situation where we don't have a clear foreign policy to guide us. Just to give you an example na lang, okay? Yung ating president said that he would go to the Sprat list and he would lead a flag ceremony. Okay? Sinabi ni Xi Jinping, don't go. He didn't go. Tony, kami ho, when I was in Congress, at ang military ito, I led a congressional delegation. Pumunta ho kami sa Sprat list. Minura ho kami ng China. Sinabi ho kay Aquino noon that stop them from going there. We were able to go there and I led the flag ceremony. I was able to do something that the president was scared to do. No? So this is a bigger issue about our foreign policy. Kaya,
Dr. Bello, if I remember the president, he said, joke on yun. Anyway, about going to Sprat, dalawang beses na po ako nagpunta sa Pag-asa Island. At nanood po ako ng flag ceremony doon. At nakakaganda ng puso at ang damin, ang ma-witness mo yon sa isang island na sinasabi ng Philippines sa pag-aari niya, may mga sundalo tayo, may mga citizens tayo, may mga trabador tayo. Anyway, the topic is economy, Dr. Bello. And you have 3 areas of expertise: political, economy, and sociology. Pero ang mga Pilipino, ang pagkakaintindi nila sa sociology, sa racket. Yun ang topic kanina ni kayo po, how do you stop graph?
How do you stop graph?
Kasi sinasabing kanya that servicing is I think it's about 34%, 1.9 over 3 to 5.2 trillion pesos. How do you stop graph? It just says it's about 30%.
When we're talking about
totoo lang po, sir.
debt servicing, you know, over foreign debt.
Hindi man ako naniniwala na mapapakulong ang mga magnanakaw dito sa Pilipinas. Unang-una, there are not enough jails. Pangalawa, meron tinatawag tayo na due process. Innocent yan bago mo sabihin na nagnakaw nga siya. Pangatlo, yung mga witnesses madaling makorap. Pang-apat, yung judiciary, yan ang isa sa pinaka-corrupt na sector ng ating gobyerno. Madaling bayaran.
Tony, I would
Yes.
Ano suggestion mo gawin natin?
Suggestion ko kasi, napansin ko, mga maunlad na bayan, lumalago naman sila kasi may corruption. Amerika, sila po nagbento ng corruption. Yung tinatawag na pork barrel, tawag yan earmarking. Japan,
sabi daw ng mga organizers, we have to wrap up daw. Baka we could request the may mga signal lang sa atin.
Anyway,
we have to wrap up now.
Listen, before you wrap, can you ask your question?
Kaya ako, kasi wala nang oras, pero question, what will they do to overcome the underdog situation that they have now. Kasi yung mga kalaban nila puro traditional political parties with all these things, how do we balance the...
Yan. Tanong niya kayo ito, Dr. Bello, may panalo kayo?
Hindi naman ganyan. Pero how do we...
Di ba natin
make the...
Sasagutin ko yung tanong ni Tony.
Oh.
Yes.
Mananalo kami. Whether you like it or not.
Hindi pa, ano nang gagawin? Ano nang gagawin mo?
People are sick and tired of corruption and a poor life. Wherever money goes, people are expressing their support, their warm welcome, their
Dr. Bello.
Yes.
and their appreciation of money.
Mananalo ba kayo? What will you
Any
do?
political exercise is
Well, kami ho, we're confident. We have less than 7 months to go. And
Yes, yes.
kami ni Calyodi will be able to make our case. No? And the main thing that we are really extremely worried about and we are fighting this campaign is to prevent the Marcos Duterte axis of evil from coming to power and perpetuating itself. But we can only do that if we have a transformative program. Kaya ngayon, sinabi namin kanina,
Dr. Bello,
Tony,
excuse me, total 15 minutes, 20 minutes ka nagsalita kanina. Final question to the two of you.
Yes, yes.
Yung presidential candidates nyo, parang walang karanasan sa papatakbo ng gobyerno.
Short
Alam
answer,
niyo,
no?
please,
Kasi
English.
signal daw.
Your respective presidential candidates have no experience to be able to effectively run the government.
Can I answer that?
Oo.
Siguro mas mabuti walang karanasan.
Request your
Walang
short answers
karanasan
lang
sa
daw.
corruption, walang karanasan sa pagnanakaw, walang karanasan sa pambobola, walang karanasan sa bad government. We have elected the brightest that you can ever think of. Ferdinand Marcos. What did he give us?
can I answer that question?
Yeah, Dr. Bello.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, Dr. Bello.
Well, yung aking minamahal na presidential aspirant,
Kilala ko pa yung si Calyodi, namit ko siya 20 years
Yeah.
ago. Galit
Yeah.
hanggang ngayon, galit pa rin.
talagang may karanasan ho yan sa buhay, especially buhay ng mga manggagawa, our lower classes. Gagap na gagap ho niya yung mga problema. And yun ho ang napakahalaga. Somebody who knows the suffering of people. That's the basic. Kasi ho, yung mga ating mga middle class, mga technocrats, wala ho silang karanasan sa kahirapan. No? If you, and mabilis man na learner si Calyodi in terms of national management. So I'm very confident that he'll do it. This is the reason that I'm supporting him in the first place, because he combines grassroots experience, grassroots suffering, with ability to offer us a vision for the future. So, ang sense ko is that we will win. We will prevail. No?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Kong Lito Atienza, but we will win and not you.
Anyway, magpapasalamat sa inyo,
Yes, thank
Dr.
you.
Bello and Lito Atienza. May request lang po.
And you beating me. Definitely, I will win.
Meron pa sana request after this official portion of the program. Baka pwede
Magkwentuhan pa tayo.
Pwede po ba? Oh.
Yes, pwede pa ba makwentuhan a few minutes after the official show is over?
Okay, Wilson.
Thank you.
Kindly conclude the program. Please stay online.
Yes.
Lito and Dr. Bello.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Dr. Bello, stay online po.
Yes. That ends our animated, interesting, and thought-provoking question and answer portion. Maraming salamat po, Deputy Speaker Lito Atienza and Professor Walden Bello, for being very candid with the questions from the audience and for sharing your plans and your analysis. Special thanks to our very talented, animated, and very enlightened moderator, Tony Lopez, and Dean Joy Abrenica for every moderating this discussion. Sana ay nagbibigay liwanag at makakatulong ang mga ideyas nila, Deputy Speaker Lito Atienza at Professor Walden Bello, para sa ating magiging desisyon sa darating na halalan. Thank you to all. Tonight, let us close tonight's lively and meaningful session. May I now call on the leader of this forum's lead organizer, Phoenix President, and also Accra Law Firm Senior Legal Counsel, Attorney Francisco Edim, to deliver his closing remarks.
Hello. Hello, William.
Yes, you're on.
Okay. Maraming salamat sa lahat, no, kapag attend itong forum na ito. Kami ay nagagalak na nandito kayo lahat. This forum is very important because we're choosing the Vice President of the Philippines, no, who, as Kong Atienza said, is the next in line, no, or the President in waiting. Therefore, we have to choose very carefully, and I'm glad that Dr. Kong Atienza and Dr. Bello have graced our occasion, and more importantly, have shared their insights and plans should they get elected to the position of Vice President of the Philippines. In this regard, I would like to thank the Next Week Committee for organizing this forum and of course our partner organizations. I hope that you attend the forum in the coming future because we will be having the same session to the Presidentiables and Vice Presidentiable. I would like to close the session by thanking our sponsors without whom this forum would not have been possible. Grab Philippines, United Auctioneers, W Group, Divino, First Philippine Holdings, LD Group, and the Union Bank of the Philippines. Lastly, I would like to thank our partners, the Federation of Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Cignal TV, and One News, and Manila Times. Again, thank you at maraming salamat sa inyong lahat.
Thank you, Attorney Francis Lim. Thank you to everyone and see you in our next session. Good night. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat. Si Tony Lopez.
Tony?
Ayan.
Tony, we should continue after the show.
O sige, sige. Yung sa Cignal Lito kung gusto nila.
Yes.
Saka